What's up, guys? Got me some new furniture here in the game room. I got me a couch so I can actually enjoy games and not sit on the floor. So, hey, awesome. Last week I talked about the 8BitDo wireless receiver for the NES. It's a nice little piece of kit. Go watch that video if you're interested. The whole point of something like that is I want to get my game room as accessible as possible. I'm planning to build me a cabinet along that wall that's going to have all of the consoles set up on it, plugged in, plumbed to the TV, ready to be used. The problem with doing that, though, is that I don't know where I'm actually going to be sitting in the room whenever I do that, and some of the controller cables aren't exactly long. So I'm trying to get as many of my consoles set up for wireless as I can. And for something like the Super Nintendo, Nintendo sells their NSO Super Nintendo controller, charges USB-Cs. It's a nice controller to have. Honestly, this is my go-to controller now if I'm playing a game that doesn't require thumbsticks. But I'm also all about authenticity. It's the whole reason I'm collecting consoles. It's the whole reason I have this wall of games behind me. And it's the whole reason I still have a CRT. I want the most authentic experience when it comes to games, while not giving up some of the modern niceties of gaming. So I could go to Nintendo's website and get their dual pack of NES controllers that they sell for the Switch as well. Problem with those is that they don't actually charge in a convenient way. You have to have them docked to the Switch in order to charge them. There's no charging port on them, and that's what's kept me from getting those, because I don't like that. The whole idea behind wireless controllers like that is convenience, and to have to dock them to my Switch to charge them is the basic antithesis of convenient. So, what's the next best option? Our friends over at 8BitDo, we talked about them last week, we're going to talk about them again this week, have created a bunch of wireless controller mods as a means to allow you to take your original OEM controllers and make them Bluetooth wireless capable. I have a list of them right here. They have a mod for the 6-button Genesis controller. They have a mod for the Super Nintendo controller, both the OEM and the SNES Classic one. They have a mod for the original PlayStation controller, not the DualShock, the one without the sticks, for both your OEM and the Classic Edition. They have mods for the NES controller, both the OEM and the Classic Edition. They have a Sega Saturn controller mod. That one I'm very interested in. And they have an N64 controller mod. So we're going to be taking a look at one of those today. I ordered two of them. I ordered an NES and an N64 controller mod. The N64 one had to be shipped to me from China, so it's going to be here eventually. But the NES one I have now. It originated in the States, so I already have it in hand, and we can take a look at it and see if it's actually worth your time. So we're going to go to the table, we're going to unbox this guy and show you what you get, and we're going to walk you through the mod process. It's a very simple mod, nothing catastrophic done to any piece of the controller. After that, we're going to set it up and show it in use. So yeah, let's go to the table and get started. And here we go. Now, it does come packaged in this nice little box here. It's not a super in-depth unboxing. You do get a charging cable, which we'll talk about in a minute. They do give you a screwdriver, which is nice. That way, if you don't have the necessary tools, because you do need a very small Phillips head screwdriver. And if you don't have that, then they do give you one to do the mod, which is really nice. It comes with an okay instruction set. This isn't a hard thing at all to do, so it's not like you really need instructions on how to do it, but they do include it, which is nice. And then gives you different instructions on how to pair it to different devices. As you can see, it works with Switch, Android, Windows, Mac OS, and on the box it says it works with Steam as well, so it runs the gamut, so you're good to go. The important thing to note is that it does have different ways you have to turn the controller on to get it into different input modes. Like for your Mac OS, you have to hold start plus A. For Windows, you have to hold start and up. For Android, you have to hold start and B. And for the Switch, you have to hold start and left. And you turn it on by holding down the start button. But the one that I bought this for, and I feel like the one that most people are going to want this for, is this one right here. The 8BitDo retro receivers and USB adapter. So you'll actually be holding start plus B to turn it on to where it can pair with those controllers. So basically the same as you would for Android, you would use it for these adapters. The other thing to note is whenever you turn this thing on and it's not paired to anything, you'll hold down the select button to put it into its pairing mode. And then we have the mod itself. So you don't want to throw this box away, and I'll go over why in a few minutes. So we'll just set this to the side for now, and we'll look at the mod. Now it does come packed in this nice little bubble wrap to keep it safe, and this nice anti-static bag. But inside of this one, and inside of this guy, is the PCB that we need to replace in our NES controller. It does have its little Bluetooth module here and a battery here. I'm a little interested because on the instructions here it says it includes a 230 milliamp hour lithium ion battery, but the battery here says it's 180 milliamp hours. So it says you'll get about 10 hours of playtime in the instructions. It also said that online, so I'd be curious to know if that's actually the case for this, but I can't think of any time where I'm going to be spending 10 hours on a single NES session, so I probably would never know. And then here on this side is I guess you'd call this the like antenna, maybe. Not really an antenna. This is like your LED indicator / charging port. Yeah, this is your charging port. If you look at the charging cable that they send, it is USB-A on one end, and on the other end is this tiny little barrel plug, which will fit into this guy to charge it. Now, I understand why they did this, because this is the only thing that you could actually get to fit on the controller without actually like damaging the casing of the controller. So like I'm okay with it. It just sucks a little bit that you have to use a very specific charger to get this guy powered up. Luckily, 8BitDo does sell this on this cable on their website for like $4. So you can get another one with relative ease if you wind up losing this guy, which is good. One other thing to note on this guy is on the top here, you have a micro USB port. Now, what that is for updating the firmware on this guy. Luckily, at least as of recording this video, June 21st, 2024, this does ship with the most recent firmware on it. So if you're getting it anytime soon, you don't have to update the firmware, but just keep that in mind. If you ever need to update the firmware, you will not only have to disassemble this guy, but you will have to find a micro USB cable to do that. Kind of wish this was USB-C, but it's something you're going to use like maybe twice in its lifetime, so I don't care, you know. But yeah, that's all that comes with it. So let's get us an NES controller and we'll do the mod. Now, luckily, this is probably the simplest mod you could ever do. You are just going to take your screwdriver, either the one they send you, or if you have one that you like better, you can use it. And you're going to take all 6 of these screws out of the controller. I personally just like to get them loose, like entirely loose, and not actually take the screws themselves out, because then I can lift the back up as one piece and keep the screws keep all the screws exactly where they belong. That's all of them, and now the back should just lift right off, and all the screws will stay right there. And there is your NES controller. I don't know what any of this stuff does, but an NES controller is one of the more bare bones controllers. As you can see, there's not a lot going on here. But the good part is that since this is an 8BitDo mod and it's a super simple one, this is mostly all you have to do. You just are gonna put this somewhere else, and we just need the shell. So we're gonna be using the shell and the membranes that were normal that came with the NES controller and the PCB here. They actually included the anti-static bag that they sent their PCB in is oversized for this exact purpose. So you can store the old PCB, and then if you ever want to reverse this mod, you can. There we go. Now, I don't know if that will fit back in the box. We'll just have to see. There we go. I did get it to fit. Perfect. So now what we need to do is we need to actually attach the charging port, which isn't difficult. It is just this little ribbon cable, but just as I've said in previous videos, ribbon cables are super fragile, so just be very careful. So we're going to be looking for this guy on this board. It is on the opposite side of the micro USB port and the opposite side of the battery. See it right there? Flip it up. And now we're ready to insert the ribbon cable. Now we're going to orient it to where the little contacts on the ribbon cable are down. And we're going to just slide this into here. You'll see the door kind of tighten up around it whenever you get it in there. And then you can just press that down and lock it in place. press that little black lever down and it locks it in place. And now we've added our charging port. We're just gonna lay this guy back into our PCB. Luckily there are some like holes on this guy that line it up where it needs to go. Like these two little nicks out on the side here line up with this and this. This big hole in the center here lines up with this, like this right here. And then that all just drops right into place. Right, like that. Beautifully done. And if you want to test it to make sure it's working right, you can just hold the start button here and that's going to turn on the controller. That's going to turn on all the Bluetooth stuff to make this controller work. And as you can see, we got light, so we are good to go. So just hold the start button for a couple seconds and it will stop blinking and you'll be ready to put it back together. The important thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this little doodad right here gets lined up in this crevice. It's a little fiddly, but with enough patience, you can get it to line up just fine. It's gonna look a little bit like that. And then we can just lay the back cover back on, press it into place, and we are good to go. Now you just gotta tighten these screws back down, and we're ready to go. And there we go. We now have a Bluetooth OEM NES controller. And as was said before, that is actually the charging port. So you just plug this guy in, plug it into a USB plug, and you can get this guy charged up and ready to go. Okay, so what we're gonna show now is actually the connectivity of this guy. Depending on what you want to connect this guy to, you're gonna hold down a certain button combination. In order to connect it to this Bluetooth receiver, we hold down the B button while we turn it on. So let's go on and get this guy on. We will set this guy into pairing mode. As you can see, that blue light is flashing. And then we'll hold down B and press start to turn this guy on. And when this starts blinking, we're gonna hold down the select button to get it into pairing mode. And soon enough, they'll connect to each other. This one stopped blinking, this one here stopped blinking, and we are connected. And because they're connected, we can now use this wireless controller to play Mega Man 4. And just to give you an example of the input lag that this would introduce, as you saw with the actual how-to part, that's a very, very simple mod and very nice to actually have a wireless capable NES controller, especially since I can have my original NES controller and use it to still play my NES. If I had to ding it for something, I don't like the charging port because I don't like that it's a special kind of cable. I understand why it had to be, it's just annoying that it is. And I wish that they could have also figured out a way to make this a data port. Like if we're gonna have to have this weird port on it, I wish they'd also found a way to make it a data port as well, so that way you wouldn't have to disassemble this guy to update the firmware. But the firmware update is something that I don't really see needing to worry about too often, because I get the feeling that this is a very niche kind of mod for the people who want to use original controllers wirelessly with original hardware. But even with its few very minor faults, it's very nice to have something like, it's very nice to be able to use a proper NES controller with my system once I'm able to get it set up on the wall, and then I don't have to worry about cables, and it's a whole thing, and I'm happy to have something like this. Especially since just from the little bit of testing I've done with it, it works really well. I like it. But I think that's gonna be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to bringing you even more mod videos just like this one as the days go on. Keep an eye out, we'll have more of these coming soon, because I've got the N64 one on the way, and then there's several others in that list that I'm excited to actually try. So again, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, y'all.